This episode of Boss Rush Video Game Book Club is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn more about Boss Rush Media's family of podcasts, head on over to bossrushmedia.com or patreon.com/bossrushmedia. Thanks for your continued support. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Boss Rush Video Game Book Club. I'm your host, Corey Derrigan. Alongside me, as always, is the Mad Pharmacist herself, Stephanie Klimov.
Hello. I'm here to talk about a mildly spoopy game. Maybe more, I don't know, mildly spoopy. Anyway, hi.
Is it more Alan Wake 2?
Alan Wake 2, I would say, is definitely more spoopy.
Oh, definitely more spoopy. Nothing scares you faster than a big, fat, naked man running after you.
Yeah, previews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stay tuned for next month's book club if you want to hear about big, fat, spoopy men.
Very
Naked
progressive,
men.
showing off a penis in the first 5 minutes of the video game.
And not an attractive penis either. Like this is a middle-aged, balding, fat man with a tiny schlong in a big old bush.
Yeah, this is real life, guys.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a fantasy.
He's a grower, not a shower. Also with us is none other than PK Power Pat Klein.
I'm not gonna lie, the character model was me. I'm sorry. Now you guys know I'm in Alan Wake 2.
Oh, man.
Wow. What a twist of fate.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you guys are enjoying that game. Sorry, buddy. Pat will be hosting that one. I will not be on that one.
Yeah, Corey chickened out.
I didn't chicken out. I hated the first game.
Well, does it mean the second game stinks?
Hmm.
Anyway, we're not talking about Alan Wake 2 today.
No, we're not. We are here, everybody, to talk about Oxenfree II.
Oxenfree.
From Night School Studios and Netflix Games. It's available on Switch, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 and PC. No Xbox version, which caused a huge uproar in the Xbox community, considering the first one is on Game Pass.
Okay.
But that's because Netflix's subscription service is Game Pass's competitor.
I was going to say a direct competitor. So I mean,
is it though?
I mean, it's not. But
by definition, yeah.
I mean, it could be in the next 4 to 5 years, though. I mean, they have two AAA.
Though?
They have two big AAA games in the works, and I mean, Joe Staten, who created Halo and came back to 343 to finish Halo Infinite, was just hired as their studio head. So. And that's a pretty big name to get.
Considering all Netflix's decisions, I cannot imagine their video game streaming service is going to last very long.
I bet it lasts longer than Stadia.
That is
Rest
true.
in peace.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's also weird, though, because they're going to I mean, I guess it's not that weird, but they're going to let everything stay multi-platform, though, except for Xbox, apparently. So Oxenfree 2 is supernatural mystery horror graphic adventure. It takes place a couple years after the first one.
Yeah. So speaking of the first one, I think that's kind of the interesting history.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is one of the kind of indie, if you want to define indie games, that was, I don't know, pretty popular back when it released. So Oxenfree, the first one, released on January 14th in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been many, many a year since the highly anticipated sequel came out. I don't have, 100% of the information on it, but so the sequel called Lost Signals, or Oxenfree II Lost Signals, was originally announced in 2021. So let's see. That's still 5 years. Okay, maybe. And they planned to release it in 2021, but there were, I think, up to 2 delays. They said that the devs said they want the experience to be the best it could be. I think part of it just had to do with the transition to Netflix.
Yeah.
So I don't know. When I saw that Oxenfree II's Lost Signals was going to be released, I got excited just based off of my experience with the first game. And I liked the first game because it was creepy but not scary. I liked the choices your character can make that can affect the outcome. And it was a decent story. My major gripe was the slow moving character. And we'll
Yeah,
discuss.
that was my big complaint too. Although I actually really liked the first one. Um, more than I really expected, and I actually like towards the end came to really like the first one,
Mm.
and it it really made me not want to play the second one, or like it really, I don't want to say not play the second one, but it retrospectively made me like not want to play the second one because it ruins the ending of the first one, like totally ruins the ending of the first one for me. uh I mean, no, man, I don't know. Should we spoil the first one? I know Pat
This is
hasn't
the
played it.
spoiler cast, and I don't really plan on playing the
But
first one.
Pat, oh, okay. So just quick
Yeah.
history for everyone. So Pat, you have not played the first Oxenfree, right? And
No,
then,
I jumped straight into the sequel like a crazy person.
well, this will provide great perspective based on how Corey and I think about it. Corey played Oxenfree right before Oxenfree 2, and I
Back to
played
back.
the first Oxenfree a couple years ago on the Switch. So I say, spoil it up.
All right. So we're going to spoil Oxenfree 1, and then we'll give our spoiler-free take on Oxenfree 2, and then we will let you know when we're heading into spoiler territory for 2 in case you haven't played it. If you're, watching this, you should go play it before you listen to this. You have been warned. So, Oxenfree 1, for me, I really enjoyed the kind of like after like it almost felt like an after high school pre-college kind of group of kids going to the island to like spend one last summer there, right? And like Alex was a really interesting character, um and I kind of just really enjoyed their kind of all of their kind of banter back and forth. And you had Jonas, which was her stepbrother.
Brand new stepbrother. So
Yes,
yeah.
brand new stepbrother. And
Oh, that is going into that kind of relationship, huh?
yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah.
actually room for a different kind of relationship. I forget, and maybe you have the name up, Corey, but there's also a friend that could be a potential love
Yeah.
interest.
There's Ren,
Ren, yep.
and then there's Clarissa, who was a bitch.
Ugh, yuck.
And then who was the it started with an N. The
Nat.
I have all their names written down except for hers. Oh my gosh.
I liked her. Well, let's see now.
Characters and Oxenfree 1. There we go.
Race. Let's see who gets. Oh,
Uh,
I read a completely
it
different
is
name.
Nona.
Nona. Okay. Oh, I like Nona.
Yeah. I think I went like a totally kind of I wonder how much you're supposed to switch characters during your gameplay, but I kept Jonas with me the whole time just because I wanted to see their relationship kind of come together and see if anything, if they would like hate each other, if they grew to like kind of care for each other and help each other out. And
or to see if Alex gets stuck in a dryer and needs help.
Oh God, this is an After Dark, Pat.
Sorry.
But I really liked it. And like once you finish, once you kind of finish the game and you go into like at the ending, when you kind of go down into that pit and kind of do like the kind of surge thing, and then your screen goes black, and then you are on the boat again, kind of heading home. It seems like it was really kind of cool. But then like at the very last second, there's like an Inception style ending to it. And I thought like, oh, maybe they got sucked in, or maybe this is just kind of like some residual stuff. You don't really know because it doesn't really tell you. And I really like that about the ending.
Well, yeah, sucked in. So just to explain, just super, super, super quick is there are these frequencies that occur on this island. It's been researched by, I think, Maggie Adler or something, and it's basically like a portal to another dimension that using frequencies to communicate, and it turns out it's by this group called the Sunken. I think it's SS Klonoa or something. Did I say it right, or am I saying another
Yeah.
video game name?
No, you said it
Um,
right.
so it's those people that are trying to reclaim their lost lives, so to speak. So every once in a while, when you dial into these signals, you're like forced into a loop. So throughout the game, you experience that. So that's why at the end, you get that little bit of like fuzzy, warped vision. It's like, oh wait, are we in a loop?
Hmm.
So that's what Corey means by like the Inception like ending. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
very good.
Okay.
Yeah. The ending was really good. And I really like how Alex was kind of like, I don't know, I felt like she was kind of like finding herself on this journey, especially with her encounters with Jonas. I really liked a lot of the puzzles and stuff in this game. I mean, they're kind of light puzzles, but the radio mechanic was really interesting, and every once in a while you get like the red eyes like just peering at you during like a cutscene, or the characters would go into their kind of the frequency, kind of the, what
Kind
do you
of
call it, the takeover, the possession, I guess you would
possession,
say.
yeah.
And I really thought the first one was a fun little 5-hour experience, and then like I said, the second one kind of ruins that ending, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But Stephanie, how did you feel about the first one?
I really loved it. That's why when I saw the very first announcement for Oxenfree II, that's what got me super excited and pestered you guys as Oxenfree II being a potential book club. I just think that again, minus the slow moving characters, I just like that choosing the dialogue. I did notice that there are different enough like endings, so to speak. Like when you end the game, like you could leave Clarissa behind.
Hmm.
Um, you
Did
can.
you?
I did.
Oh, I didn't. I saved her.
You saved her.
I couldn't just. I look. She's a bitch, but I couldn't just let her stay.
Goody two shoes.
I know.
And yeah, like you said, Alex is just a very likable character. I don't know if I would say as much as Riley that we'll talk about, but I came out of the original Oxenfree very positive.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I also thought like Ren reminds me of like a friend that I used to have like probably like 10 years ago, and I totally understood his character. Like you either like are like that person or you don't like people like that. And I totally like got that character, and it kind of enhanced the kind of like his and Alex's relationship as friends. Um,
Mhm.
and it was totally relatable to me from like a long time ago.
I love how it's described in Wikipedia. Alex is accompanied by Ren, her stoner friend.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, well,
Hey, stoner friends.
let's
We all have
see.
those.
Fun facts: this game was nominated for multiple awards, including Best Narrative at the Game Awards 2016 and Outstanding Achievement in Story at the 20th Annual DICE Awards.
Hmm.
So if you don't want to listen to us, you can listen to that.
Yeah, but listen to us because we're cooler.
Yeah.
So I guess we should kind of walk into spoiler-free territory for the second one.
Yeah. We can talk
Pat,
about just overall. Sorry, go ahead. Main
no,
game
no,
mechanics and stuff.
you go, you go.
Oh, no. I was just saying, like, so in order to do like spoiler free, we could just generally talk about game mechanics, how it's similar to the first
Hmm.
game, and then just high level characters and what we thought about it. Pat,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
we'll start with you.
What was my opinions of the game? The game started out a little bit slow, but once you finally plant that first transmitter, and that's when things start like kicking off.
Hmm.
But it definitely was very interesting. I do like how the dialogue like flows very naturally, and that by not making a choice, you made a choice. So
Hmm.
you literally have to. You have three dialogue options and a fourth no dialogue option, but the conversation is going to continue whether or not you respond by one of those three prompts or just not at all. Um, I do have to question why, like, 2 out of the 3 answers kind of makes Riley into a bitch. But
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. That I guess that's just kind of her personality in the game. But the characters did grow on me after a while. I think I liked the radio characters more than I liked the ones that were on the screen uh,
Mhm.
most of the time. I do like the radio puzzles, turning to the frequency and trying to create anomalies using the radio signals. Um, the radio itself, I can't say I really listened to too much of the radio shows or what was going on. I tuned in occasionally to the school channel because you have a NPC that you can talk to, and that channel kind of goes back and forth between her little story. But I will say, out of all the characters, my favorite was definitely Nick the Fisherman. His story was awesome.
Yep,
Um,
agree.
yeah. I like the time travel mechanics. I wish there was more of that in this game.
Mhm.
Um, but I like how they were used and able to like move forward in some of those levels.
Mhm.
Overall, though, yeah, the story was enjoyable. Um, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to play it. Steph, thanks for the recommendation.
Oh, thank you. That means you
I'm
didn't hate it as much as Corey.
well,
No,
I
I didn't
think
hate it.
I think Pat had the advantage though of not
Yeah.
playing the first one. I wonder how much my opinion would have changed if I played two only, or two or one or two before one or something.
That's
You know,
totally fair.
I
um,
mean, I'll say, the Inception ending does sound pretty awesome, but and I can see why you like it ruined that ending for you. But at the same time, like I feel like the developers maybe wanted to try and like give those characters a happy ending.
yeah. I
So
mean that's fair, and I really enjoyed seeing like Alex at the end of the game, and like her kind of helping you.
Spoilers, gosh.
Oh, yeah. Whoops. Oh well. Uh, but I just I don't know. I almost wish this was like its separate story, and like maybe they mention the kids in passing or something, or I don't know. I I don't know. The way they tied it together like made sense, but I didn't care for it, I guess.
Mhm.
I also like I almost wish it took place on the same island instead of, a different part of
Edward's
this
Island,
world.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
So I don't know. Let me see. Let me get to my. Oh, the one of the other kind of big complaints is that like Riley is really boring. She's just like not a great character, and Jacob was. I didn't care for that. You couldn't choose who you wanted to be with you because it was just Riley and Jacob, right?
Mhm.
And I know, like, I know there are people on the phone, and you encounter, the other people on the island later, but like Jacob's really all you got. And I get that they're like working together, and like that's kind of the thing, but you know,
Mhm. Right. Well, since you mentioned Riley, so Oxenfree II is follows a young woman, no girl, oh no,
Oh,
woman. She's like
woman.
in her
woman,
30s, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I
Like,
guess
but it's not. Yeah, it's not like teens like the first game.
she's like at least late
mhm.
20s.
Yeah, so it's I think I read somewhere that it's almost like a coming of age, but for like I don't know, like probably us millennials or whatever. So in one way, I wish I could relate in that sense, and there are going to be themes about parenthood and childhood that help. But I
Mhm.
do agree about Riley. She just seemed like a character that's just so over everything, which I don't know if that's her attempts to be cool or blasé, but she
I
really
mean,
is
we
just
find out about her, but we find out about her almost at the very end about what
yeah.
her
Mhm.
internal struggle, and that's like right at the finale when it's like, oh, let's quickly dive into her past. So when you get to the ending, it makes sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like if a little bit of that introduced earlier could go a long way. Same thing with the indication of the characters in the first game, because I spent a lot, at least the first half of the game, being like, "What the hell? What is it? Where? What? How does this tie to the first game?" And I know it eventually does at the end, but it also seemed very sudden. I wish, like, this phenomenon happened. I wish maybe people in the town. Granted, most of it happened in the middle of the night, so maybe all the townspeople were in bed, but there's just like almost no reference or recollection, at least unless I missed something, guys, right? Like I just felt like there's no mention of Alex and crew in the beginning.
No, not the
No.
beginning. There is like a mention of it, like I would say about halfway through the game, depending on your choices, right? Where they
Mm.
mention like a bunch of kids encountered this on, the
Yeah,
other
Edward
island.
Island. Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
at that point, you don't really know that they're talking about Alex and Ren, right? They just said
exactly.
people encountered it, which in the first game, right? You learn that it was like, Maggie Adler and Anna, right, are kind of like the two like spirits that you kind of are trying to help right at that point. But it could have been referring to that, or like something else that happened over there, because they in the first game they do mention that this has happened before, and maybe even a couple times. And uh you could even be talking about the younger crew on the ship that sank, right? And
Mhm.
I guess you could have picked it up that way too, but I didn't take it that way because I didn't know that, the kids from the first game were going to be involved at all, you know?
Right. So yeah, Riley arrives in her hometown on the Camina coast. This takes place 5 years after the first game, and she's just picked up a job to study radio anomalies. Pretty interesting job. Her boss is Evelyn. She's a relatively pleasant person that you speak to over the radio. Um, she is assigned that coworker Jacob to start erecting radio transmitters along the coast. I believe
And don't
Jacob.
forget why she chose Jacob.
Can you
Because
remind
Jacob
me?
had a truck.
Mm,
Well, yeah, and now, yep, and then the truck broke down.
which is hilarious.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think they chose me mostly because I had a truck. Yeah, that's correct.
I say what you will about Jacob's character, but I think the voice acting for Jacob was pretty well done because he came off as a very awkward,
Hmm.
sheltered, lived in a small town
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah. I definitely liked Jacob a lot more than Riley in this. Um, he definitely felt more like a realistic person, instead of like a 30-year-old depressed
Yeah, he
person.
showed his insecurities outwardly.
Yeah.
Like if the conversation wasn't going his way or no one was responding, he's the one that continues to talk, and
Hmm.
it's both a little weird, but at the same time, that's his character.
How
That's
did
his
you guys
personality.
respond to him? Because man, you could either be a real B or you be. I was always kind to
Mm,
him.
Yeah, I was too.
yeah, same.
If 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 the character that you're interacting with is trying to be nice to you, I usually try to respond in a nice way. But like, the other people on the island that you encounter that are kind of dicks, I was kind of a dick back.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I did because I did use a walkthrough on this one because I wanted to get the most out of the conversations and stuff. By being a dick, that allowed you to use Jacob for the ending if you
Mm,
wanted to use him.
I
yeah,
see.
Otherwise, he would refuse his option.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good to know.
Did you?
Hmm.
Okay, well, we'll get into it when we get into spoilers. It was about Jacob, but I don't want to spoil anything else because I've already kind of spoiled some of it. But whoops.
Hmm.
But should we get into spoilers? Should we start getting into some major spoilers for this?
Yeah, I think so because we've kind of set up the basic premise, right? Or what do you think?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, you set up a transmitter, and all of a sudden you rip a hole through space time.
mhm.
Pretty much. And that's when all heck breaks loose. You encounter several like time loops or hallucinations. Usually Jacob is like kind of possessed. And then you also have to deal with these really obnoxious teenagers. There's Olivia, Charlie, and Violet. I think Olivia is kind of the ringleader, and I believe their
Mhm.
families are connected to a cult. Always
Hmm.
got to throw a cult in small communities,
Yeah,
called
Yep.
parentage.
yeah. But later we kind of learn that she kind of has ulterior motives by using whatever the cult kind of uses to worship and change things. She like wants to do something else with it. Like later in the story you really find out, and it's actually kind of sad.
Hmm.
Mhm.
uh and you want to like help her, but you don't know what the right answer is for that towards the end.
Mhm. Yeah, they also try to set up parentage as kind of maybe the antagonists in the game. Like maybe they're the ones that are trying to rip space time. And you find out later, no, it's just a group of people that are really obsessed with star watching. That they have nothing to do with any of the anomalies that are going on.
Yeah, it's a nice little red herring. I mean, I'm pretty sure some people could probably figure it out in the beginning, but it's still nice. One of my favorite parts of the game was exploring the church because there was like a lot going on in that area. A lot of stuff to read, a lot of
Mhm.
interactions. Things got a little bit tense there. It's those little bundled up scenarios in the game that I enjoy. It's the walking to and from that can be a bit painful. I understand that's for the dialogue and it's for the story. I think Corey mentioned usually the dialogue's pretty seamless, but gosh darn it, I wish there was a run button or something because I just felt like the time in between dragged a little bit.
Yeah. I I'm actually kind of shocked that like they didn't add a run button or something, cuz like none of the buttons really do anything except for like move and choose your speech stuff, right? I mean,
And the radio, dialing into
yeah.
the radio.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, the radio mechanic in these games are so good though. I really enjoyed that
Mhm.
mechanic.
Well, and
So,
speaking of like radio again, like that's where, for example, Nick the fisherman comes into play. Like as the story progresses, if you check in with him enough, you get little bits of progression. I think he's out there kind of taking a look at what's going on and he kind of might get sucked up into the chaos as well. I missed one and I was very upset. I
Mhm.
missed one entry with Nick.
mm,
Yeah, he's out on the sea, and he's noticed that the sea has been acting very strange. Particularly, it's too still in the
Oh,
beginning.
right. Still like glass. Mhm.
Hmm. And that it felt sharp, but it's the ocean is not supposed to be that way, and eventually it gets tied into storms and waves, and he finally sees a portal, and you have the option to tell him how they open, or tell him to just kind of get away from it.
yeah. I didn't really. I did a few of the Nick things, but I didn't. I was more trying to mainline it because I wasn't sure when we were gonna record this episode, so I wanted to make sure I got it done. Uh,
Hmm.
but I really did like interacting with a lot of the people um, on the radio and trying to do some of the things for them, like the island kind of like park ranger um,
Hmm.
Mhm.
character, and like telling her to either stay put or go out. And like you always had that. There's a point where they kind of hint at like if you tell her to leave that she'll die. And so
Hmm.
I try to keep her safe. And then the dog, Jacob's dog, also I was like, we gotta find the dog. And I thought we would just run into it on the island at some point, but then it like shows up, you know.
Right at the very end,
Yeah.
conveniently.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd you guys choose with the park ranger? Because I almost wanted to. Yeah, I think it reverse psychology me because I'm like, she definitely won't die. Go investigate, and that was the wrong
Again,
decision.
when a disembodied voice tells you to keep her safe by not keeping her inside, you kind of want to listen to that disembodied voice.
I don't know. Not all disembodied voices have the best interests in mind, but clearly I was wrong.
So you
I
killed the park ranger.
I
oh,
accidentally killed the park ranger.
rip Park
Wow.
Ranger. I kept her safe.
I kept her safe.
Hmm.
No, I did tell Nick how to open up the portal, and he did go through on the other side,
Oh,
but
Oh,
Nick.
he was happy about it. Like he opened it, he's like, "Wow, this is like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And he seemed Nick seemed like the kind of guy who was lonely,
mm-hmm.
so it's not like he had people that would miss him. I
Right.
feel.
Like he's not leaving anything in particular behind.
Yeah, so like he was one that was craving that adventure, and you kind of got that through his messages that, this was what he loved. So it's like this is how you open up the portal, go and have yourself one last great adventure.
That's what I found really touching about that kind of his side story. I really like that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, so where should we go next? We do know that Jacob did know Maggie Adler at some point, which kind of ties it back to the plot of the first game. Um,
Right. She studied the anomalies on Edward Island.
mhm.
And by speaking about her, they kind of use that information to make a plan and go to, like, I think it's three, right,
Yeah.
points on Kamina, like the highest points, and
Mhm.
put up three radio transmitters. And by doing that, they're hoping to cancel out the radio anomaly and close that big triangle in the sky.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, I thought that was kind of like an interesting kind of story beat to be not to put up the transmitters because that's kind of the whole the whole game at this point. Uh, but I really thought it was interesting that they once he revealed that he knew her and that like he knew what she was kind of doing, and they decided to kind of come up with a plan to do something similar was interesting. Um, I did think that was good. Uh, and then while they're setting up the transmitters, I think after the second one is when you kind of encounter one of the
Yeah.
kids. I think
Each
Charlie,
transmitter kind of had its own like kid encounter
right? Because
ish.
Violet was on the bridge, right?
Yep.
And then
Hmm.
Charlie was like when you had to open that locked gate, but
Yep.
he like got through it. Did he unlock it, or you know
The gate was unlocked. He got through it and he
right? And then
locked
he
it.
Locked
locked
it.
it,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Hmm.
And then Olivia is when you go to the house after the second transmitter.
Yeah.
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 Which
How did you treat the first two? I was kind and saved Violet, and I was
Hmm.
kind to Charlie as well. And I
yeah.
thought that helped me in the confrontation later.
Hmm.
I think it did. Like
Yeah.
by helping them, they were less likely to help Olivia when it came to that point, and actually, in a sense, stop Olivia from reaching the radio at certain times.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And at that point I also I also saved Violet and was nice to Charlie, and when I got to the house actually like they were like, Olivia, you don't know what you're doing, you should stop.
Hmm.
They both were. And then I can't
Yeah,
remember if they ran away or not, but like the house, like the one of the kind of transmission signal things, like turn the house sideways, and you're trying to run up the
hmm
house sideways, which was really cool.
hmm
Um, I actually really liked that part of
Wasn't
the
that the
game.
church part?
Yep, that's the church,
Yeah.
the community
Yeah.
center.
Community.
Oh no,
Well, yeah, community center,
yeah,
whatever.
I said
Sorry.
house, so I was
Hmm.
wrong. Uh,
Yeah, that was a really excellent sequence.
yeah, yeah, it was
Hmm.
cool.
But yeah, by helping them, like Violet stepped in the way, like and from Olivia stepped in Olivia's path so that you can actually get around a lot quicker and try and get the radio transmitter before Olivia does. So
Mhm.
Hmm.
it does help you,
Yeah,
especially if you're an achievement hunter and want to get the achievement for stopping Olivia from opening up the portal.
yeah, and this is also the point where like Olivia's being possessed by uh what we find out later to be Alex. And when you first kind of see that, like, I mean, everybody gets possessed in this game at one point or another, right? But
Not Riley. No, wait.
right,
Riley
there
does
was
at the very end.
yeah, there was, I mean, there was a couple points where like the
Hmm.
time traveling thing, or the time
Mhm.
kind of revert back to like, oh, I'm going up this mountain. Oh, I'm back here. We did this already, kind of thing. But yeah, and then where are we at next? Olivia gets possessed by Alex, and she Alex kind of reveals that her and her friends were trapped by the original rift they opened when they visited the island in the first game. And this is kind of where like you start at least I started putting two together, like, oh, did they not make it? Like, and then that's kind of where like my brain just the rest of the time I was playing, I was like, man, did they really do this? And kind of take the mystery out of the first game. Uh, but let's see. The portal. What were you gonna say something, Stephanie?
No, keep going.
Oh, the portal appears to have closed once the transmitters were activated, because after you go to the community center, you kind of set the third transmitter, and it looks like it's closed. And where I lost. Okay, through possessing Alex possessed Jacob, and tells Riley that the portal had been partially open for some time, and entities she refers to as the Sunken, which was the crew from the lost submarine that they kind of touch on it in the first game, but
The
uh,
SS Klanoa, however you pronounce it.
yeah,
They were a
and
very creepy crew.
yeah, and at this point, like, before we move on, like the you see like way more of the shadowy figures with the red eyes in this game than you do in the first one. Like, there's a whole segment, like when you go through the house and you start doing like the radio signals and the chalkboard, like you have to do get the hangman puzzle.
Hmm.
Was really cool. And but like they were not only like present, but they were like all around. In the first one, you saw like maybe one at a time, or like you would see the eyes up in the sky kind of watching over you, but never more than like two at a time. I think in this game, they were like 3 to 5 on screen a lot of the
Yeah, at
time
the
when this
end
stuff
there was
happened.
at least 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
visually it was very creepy. I
Mhm.
loved it.
yeah, it's definitely really creepy. So after they set the transmitters, they I
Well,
lost
they
my spot
ultimately
there.
Yeah.
need to go to Edward Island, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because
they Alex alerts them to let them know that the Sunken is still manipulating Olivia,
right.
and that Olivia went to Edward Island to, you know, reopen the rift.
Yeah,
that's why I was like, oh, those
That's
pesky teenagers always freaking causing trouble. I'm
yeah.
telling you.
mhm.
Dick
But
Harden's tower.
yeah,
What?
the other kids though they were done. They didn't want anything else to do with it. It was primarily because of something that Olivia needed done.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And so at this point, you kind of go to like the town center or whatever, and like you can finally kind of and correct me if I'm missing anything in between. That last part. I guess you go
Oop,
to
it-
Jacob's house at one point
yeah, you
in
did go to
between
Jacob's
this.
house originally to get the I think it was to get the radios.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, at one point, you had to go and break into the shop to get the transmitters that because the shop was closed and that's where they
Right.
were, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the anomalies were like taking place and like flipping back and forth through time. And we kind of met Olivia also breaking into the shop and setting it on fire at some point in time that was different.
Yeah.
Uh, and then also throughout each mission, you kind of learned a little bit about Riley. It started off with
Mm,
Riley and her dad. Why Riley
yes.
was a really good hiker is because her dad took her around splunking in the caves
Mm-hmm.
when Riley couldn't go on like a vacation
Yeah.
or a school trip.
Yeah.
And then we find out about like every time Riley set up a transmitter, she would then gets sent to some. It seemed like another dimension where she meets this boy named Rex.
Mm.
And you start learning that, or Rex starts kind of referring to Riley as his mother, but it also is like a very tense and not exactly what you think a good parental child relationship should be. Like, there's definitely some strain there.
And like strain that like she's afraid that's going to happen, right? And like and maybe in that timeline where Rex is kind of an adult, right, where they maybe that relationship happened in that timeline,
right? It wasn't the best relationship.
Yeah, and maybe this is kind of like her learning moment of like, maybe I need to focus more on being a good parent to this child, because you do find out that she's pregnant during this game, which we didn't really touch on.
See, you get really freaky dreams when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Or possessions.
I mean, I don't know why I said like I knew that, but and so that was a pretty interesting scene. And you could actually kind of like feel that kind of her growing concern that she's going to be a bad parent. And so I think that scene actually influenced my decision on the ending, which we'll get to actually. But, once.
But it definitely, by learning that, it helps when you get to the main finale. And when Riley gets possessed, she has to go like through the depths of her mind.
Yes.
And kind of see the events that molded her into how she is currently.
So as you make the boat trip over to Edwards Island, did you guys take Jacob or did you leave him behind?
I took
him.
Oh, I left him behind.
No way. What happened?
Well, I was kind of like, so I was kind of using a guide and I read ahead, and like I didn't know like, so in the guide I was reading, it said if you take Jacob, he sacrifices himself so you guys can get out. And so I'm like, I want Jacob to live because Olivia's a bitch. And and so
lived.
I mean, but no, I found out later that like you could make the decision or like
to have him be sacrificed.
Yeah,
got it. Okay,
yeah. Okay.
The way the guide I read, it said that he would sacrifice himself, but
I see.
There's a choice later. So
interesting.
I left him there with his dog because that's right after you find the dog. But the boat ride over. What? So you took Jacob with you. What happened on the boat ride over? Like, was there a conversation between you and Jacob, or
yeah, yeah, Jacob and you have a conversation.
Interesting.
I kind of forget what it was about.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you.
Well,
just kind of like what's going to happen when everything's all said and done, like because there's a possibility that they weren't going to come back alive, and then they do the whole spitting over the side of the boat for luck.
Oh, right.
I remember that part. Both of them do. Well, no, he does it, and you have the option to follow suit.
Interesting.
So it's like friendship building on the boat.
Yeah. So if you leave Jacob behind, an apparition of Alex actually rides over with you, and you finish the game with Alex and trying to convince Olivia one way or another whether she should do this or not. And then the decisions I made, I got sucked into the portal with Olivia and Alex, and like you could see the apparitions of the friends kind of floating around this triangle, I guess the entrance to the portal, but you're now on the other side. They're not actually the friends, but they're just like the black silhouettes with the red eyes kind of floating around. And you kind of have that conversation with Olivia, and she wants to be in there. Like this is where you kind of find out why she wanted to do this in the first place, and it's because her parents were killed, and or they're
crash.
And they're kind of on the other side. and she wanted to be with them because that's the only thing that makes her happy is being with them.
Oh.
And so I left her in there. I
Well, a big part of that, just till we get there, is, and that's the whole kind of connection of the sunken were the ones that were trying to manipulate Olivia,
yeah,
where we kind of more
Yeah.
had Alex on our side.
yeah, and
Yeah, the portal needed to be closed so that the Sunken would not invade, but
mhm,
it needed to be closed on the other side,
mhm,
Right. Isn't that
which is
always the
why someone
case?
had to be behind.
yeah. Another question I have for you guys, since you chose to take Jacob, did you go through some of the scenes of the first game at all?
I don't recall.
I can't say.
No.
Well, uh, so I took Alex, and like when you go through the portal, you start on the beach from the first game, and it's like the whole opening scene from the first game when they're on the beach, and she's like talking you
Oh.
through, like Alex is participating in the conversation, but she's also talking to you and telling you like,
that did
Mhm.
happen. Yeah.
oh, interesting, okay,
That
Yeah.
was that was touching. I really did like that. Um, I went with Olivia because she really wanted to, and I figured Riley needed to grow the f up and stay, and then Jacob also just needed to just grow up and enjoy his life.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I feel like the ending heavily hinted that Olivia needed to be the one to go
Yeah.
on the other side. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone else, like Riley's, if she went on to the other side, it would have been to. The thing about being on the other side is the other side's a time loop.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, yes, it's going to be your happiest memory, but nothing's ever going to progress beyond that point.
Yeah,
So that's why Olivia wanted to do it, so she could just be with her family for eternity. And for Riley, it would have been she could spend time with Rex while Rex and her relationship is good. Because according to Alex, who's seen all the times, the their relationship's going to sour. There's nothing that Riley's going to be able to do to keep Rex and her relationship from like falling apart.
yeah,
And then Jacob, um, I'm not quite sure what Jacob's reward is, but Jacob will actually refuse if you tell him to go on the other side, if he has a good relationship with you. If you
yeah,
treat him like trash, he doesn't care. He'd be like, you know what, fine, I'm going on to the other side
I've got
because
nothing
everyone
else for me here.
sucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah. It's a really interesting way that this game ends. I mean, I left Jacob behind, and then once we got back from the other side, uh, Riley ended up sitting on the bench where the game starts,
Yep.
and her and Alex have this long conversation about her brother and Rex, and you know a few other things, and then you see all the friends from the first game kind of walk through the town, and
Hmm.
uh, it kind of feels like they don't know what happened, but
Right.
Alex
Yeah.
does, and that kind of didn't make sense to me.
Like hint, hint, wink, wink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, but at the same time, I was like, whatever. I don't know how I don't know how else to end it. I didn't want to have a conversation with all five kids, right?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, what would have been cool is if they read your save from the first game just for the ending, and if
Oh
Clarissa was
yeah.
there or not, which would have been funny. Oh, Clarissa's not here. She's dead. You murdered
Hmm.
her. Um, so
No, that I do think the final part, though, to the ending was a very nice touch.
the box,
The box of
yeah,
things that you got depending on your choices.
yeah, that was really fun. And the note from Alex was nice. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I really enjoyed that part. Actually, I thought it was really, uh, it was a great ending to a bad ending, in my opinion, if that makes sense. I mean, again, I don't really like how this game spoiled the first game, but it's preference, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think the ending was too bad in this one. Like, in retrospect, yeah, Alex will probably end up like not Alex. Riley probably is not going to have that good relationship with her son. But if I feel like Alex tried to reconcile that with the box that that you find out went to Riley to explain, no, sorry, that went to Rex to explain just what kind of a person Riley was. And so that's why the box is like, oh, these are all the choices. Like, you got this because you helped Nick do this. You got this because you saved Shelly. You
Hmm.
got this because, you told Evelyn to go home
Mhm.
rather than stay at work because her sister was missing.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I was deeply troubled. Sorry to backpedal a little bit, where kind of Alex explained that your future with Rex, just regardless, is not going to end well. Like, how disheartening is it? Especially, Corey, you as a parent. Like, imagine if someone who is, I don't know, a time traveler or something, but like, hey, Corey, guess what? When your kids grow up, they're going to hate you no matter what you do. Like, how shitty is that feeling?
Yeah, it's pretty not feeling great. So I mean I know most teenagers are kind of going to be shitty anyway, but just because that's the nature of a teenager, most of them, I guess, shouldn't put them all in a box, but I'm going to anyway for the sake of this conversation.
They all must go in the box.
also, I gotta wonder though, like when you look at all possibilities, can you even see the possibilities that happen after you change the original possibility?
I don't.
Like
I think you would have to
maybe,
play it again.
I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, Riley's and Rex are not gonna get like have a good relationship, but maybe kind of like in a whole Christmas Carol thing, like these original apparitions and like seeing the relationship she's going to end up having with Rex and the fact that Alex can now intervene and give this box to Rex, maybe, yeah, it starts off tumultuous, whatever
Hmm.
the word is.
Tumultuous, yeah.
Yeah, and then becomes, repaired later on
Right.
in the
Because of
life.
the knowledge, could that negative relationship be
Hmm.
circumvented? Yeah. That's why, like, I kind of gotten that. I kind of overthought it. I'm like, no, now that we know Riley's going to work hard and she's going to make it work with him.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, this is also the first timeline that Alex can't see, right? Because she's here. So
Yeah.
maybe that changes something too.
Hmm.
I don't know. I would like to think that her being back changes everything for them at least.
Right.
Until we play Oxenfree 3 and, find out what really happened.
You mean Oxen 3?
Oh,
Ah,
Oxen 3, I get
don't
it.
do that. Night School, don't do that. Just
yeah.
call it Oxen 3.
I think this is, a duology is good. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if there's much room left for an Oxenfree 3.
Well, what if there's a way to save the crew, but without them being possessive assholes?
I was going to say, they already try to be murdering and taking over people. They can stay where they are.
Or maybe Action Free 3 is the crew.
That
Yeah,
whole
I was kind of
time.
thinking that, or like playing as Maggie Adler also could be an
Like a
interesting
prequel.
kind of
Yeah.
prequel. Because there's a lot of information in this game that this game just wants you to kind of like know the facts and not the backstory a little bit. I mean, you learn about Maggie Adler in the first one a little bit, but not. I almost feel like it wasn't enough to like. I don't know. It would be interesting to play as her through an
Yeah.
adventure, her and Anne or whatever.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of backstory in those letters that you can find around.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
Almost too much.
Well, see, if the characters weren't so slow moving and it just took so long to traverse that tiny map, I wouldn't have mind doubling back on some of those collectibles. But there are times where I'm like, no, I cannot go all the way back to the other side to pick up
Right.
this one shiny thing. No,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the thought. I do feel like for a smaller game like this, it definitely has well thought out lore. It definitely feels like I don't know, like a Pacific Northwest type of feel, very creepy, very eerie, but too slow.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, any final thoughts on this? This game. If I was to score this game, I would. I know I kind of complain about the ending a lot, and the first game, but I would actually give this game probably like a 7.5. Mm.
I'd put it in the 7 range too. And as much as we like to think these days that anything that's not a 10 or 9
Mm-hmm.
is garbage, 7 actually means good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I would hover between like high sevens, like 7.8 or something, or at highest an 8. Probably just because of my love for the first game. There are a lot of I just love the mechanics of the radio. I think the mechanics really do well. I do like the choices, but I don't know, the length between the first game and this, and the way it handled the first game wasn't really my ideal way that it was handled. Um, like I said,
Right.
it was slow going. I can't keep saying that enough. Like it just really, I wouldn't say broke the immersion, but I was just kind of like, all right, let's go. Let's keep going, to the point where in any other game I might have been willing to do all the extra side stuff, but I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they needed more like that. I love the radio mechanic. I just wish there was more to the
Yeah.
radio mechanic and the time travel.
Yeah. I do kind of like how they built off of the radio mechanic from the first game, though, because
Mhm.
there are some slight improvements from the first game. Because the first game, like, you just tuned in, right, and then you found a more powerful radio to get more signals, and that was kind of it. Where this actually, like, you had to use it to solve puzzles and uh, a
Yeah.
couple other things that were a little bit different. Not enough to like really care about or notice, but it was a slight difference from the
Oh
first game.
yeah. Can't you use the radio signals to help like unlock locks or
Hmm.
something?
Yeah.
Unlock locks.
Unlock locks.
Used them to, of course, open up the rips,
Yep.
and they weren't radio signals. But then you also had those little computer mini games
Right.
where you had to change the waves into shapes.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that was
Which
cool.
it's funny because we were just like we're talking about this game, but you could do the same thing in Spider-Man because I just finished Spider-Man Remastered's main campaign, and it
Nice.
kind of reminds me of like a better version of what you did in Oxenfree.
Aw. But I would say overall, I still say the first is better of the two. So if you listener have played neither, at minimum play one. If you can't
Hmm.
play both, play one. Um, Two is still worth it if you have the budget and you end up liking one. I don't know about you, Corey, if your recommendation stands as it's you don't need to play it back to back. I definitely, for sure, don't think you need to play it back to back.
Yeah,
But
I just did it because I thought it would enhance my
well, yeah,
you know
naturally.
yeah. Uh, I would. It's so hard because like I have a lot of if you don't care about the game's ending and you actually like the kind of stuff that we talked about, like how the first game is kind of introduced into the second game and how it kind of wraps it up, I would play them both. I still think one is better. I honestly think it's probably just a preference thing at this point because they're both very similar games. I think you have more variety in characters in the first one, obviously. Uh, and your relationships with each of the characters could change depending on who you take with you and the conversations you have. I kind of again kind of felt a little uh I guess cornered when in 2 because you can only have Jacob, which Jacob's a great character, don't get me wrong, and some of the conversations are actually funny and kind of uh kind of take you out of the scary elements of the game for a while with
Hmm.
some of these conversations. Uh, but then again, you don't get multiple, personalities to
Right.
encounter and kind of deal with. So uh, I personally would say play 1, definitely. 2, I would say it's worth playing, but just be warned they really incorporate the first game into the second game in a personal opinion, a not great way. I was trying to think of a smarter word to say,
Not
but
ideal.
I lost it. Yes, thank you.
Not utilizing the first game to its maximum potential.
Yeah, look, the English language is hard. Okay.
Oh, it's always hard.
Uh,
Uh, Nice. So Pat, would you? And I know you said 7 is a good game, but generally, would you say you recommend it for most gamers? Like, what kind of gamers do you think would like it? What gamers do you think would not like this?
Well, these are definitely. This is definitely for a set of gamers that like the sci-fi mystery that comes along with this one. It does like it is a science adventure game. It deals with theories of time, relativity, and if you're into that, that's definitely something you should check out. It's also like for people who really like narratives. Just don't expect a whole lot of puzzling to happen, and but overall, I will say it told a good story. So if you like good stories, check it out. But maybe go with the first one because apparently I don't have the first experience, but it sounds like the first experience was a better one.
Yeah.
Either way, I would say solid performance by Night School Studio. I don't know what they're up to now, but
They made something in between too, I feel like. Let's see. They Oxenfree After Party was the other
After
game that
Party.
they made.
Oh yeah,
Well,
After Party,
is that
the
the kids that
drinking
tried to
game.
like? Yeah, I was gonna say try to outdrink Satan or something.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I heard that one's a fun game.
I played like the first hour of it. The dialogue was pretty funny, but it didn't click with me, I guess. So I kind of put it down, but it's out there. It's definitely has a lighter hearted tone than Oxenfree and Oxenfree
Oh
2.
yeah. Well, look at that. Another game in our book club library.
Yeah. There you go. There's now 10 book clubs out for patrons and
And I
9
think
for
a lot of our
And only a
recent
quarter of them are Zelda.
right and
Yeah.
a lot of them are actually spoopy or in the spoopy realm, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like we've hit a theme with the last two and the next one with the whole like night in the woods.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of tell everybody what's coming up. So Stephanie and Pat and other guest are doing Alan Wake 2. And then Pat and I reached out to Grayson today. So Grayson Morales might join us.
Mary also said she'd
Yeah.
be interested in that one as
Nice.
well.
Yeah, she
So
might join us there too. So that might be a good foursome. Huh? Huh?
Hey.
mm-hmm.
A
For what? I don't think you said the title of the
for
game.
Spider-Man 2. We're doing Spider-Man
Yeah.
2 and for December's Patreon episode. And then January, have we confirmed January's?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think at some point, and it doesn't have to be January's game, we should have let our patrons do a vote. If not for a specific game, but for maybe like type. Should it be a recent release, and a throwback, or an indie or triple? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I think it would be cool.
I will put up a post when this episode goes up on Patreon. And then depending on, how many votes we get, I will also put a poll out on Twitter maybe a couple weeks later
Okay.
just to see, like
Alright.
mid-November, so we have enough time to do some games.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, and then when Pat and I discuss Alan Wake 2, we'll reveal what January will be.
Yep. And I already know what game I want to do when it's my turn for book club.
Well, you're definitely due. What is it?
I want to do the first Gears of War game really bad.
Ooh.
I mean, that campaign's only about 6 or 7 hours long, but
I mean, if push comes to shove, that could be January.
I mean, it could, but we also talked about another game that's kind of more interesting and relevant to that month. So
For January?
yeah. I'll remind you when we end the call.
Okay.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us for this video game book club. Remember, you get it 1 month early if you are a patron for just $1. You can catch up We will throw some, a couple free ones a year out there for everybody during the, like we did Separate Ways. I actually think that's a cool way to revisit a game, is like if there's any DLC that's kind of substantial, to do that as like the free one.
Well, sounds like Alan Wake 2 is getting 2 of them, so.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom won't have DLC, so.
Great. No offense to that game, but I really don't feel like going back to that game. I beat it. I kind of put it on the shelf, and I'm like, I really enjoyed the game, but I'm like, I don't know if I can do everything that like the first one.
I want to spend some wintertime hours running around one more time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the bulk of what I want to do, I've just kind of run out of steam.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Stephanie, Pat, thank you for your time as always on these
Happy
fun
gaming
video game book clubs. You can check out our website. You can follow us on social media. You can do all the things. Patreon for just $1. You get almost everything early. And you can be a Patreon producer at the $5 level. It really helps. So thank you everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you.
Don't open any time rifts.
Yeah. Maybe you're in one. If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/BossRoastMedia, and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support.